Okay, so there's a post there that says Marvel doesn't care about black people. It says Wonder Man Season 2 has been cancelled. I heard that was a very good first season. Didn't watch it, but I heard it was really good. Blade, 7 years in development hell. Black Captain America, sidelined. Armor Wars, Black Lead being swapped out for new Iron Man movie. Moon Girl, cancelled. And Monica Rambeau, where the F is she? Okay, so it shows that the Wonder Man's been cancelled, Blade's been cancelled, Captain America, after Steve Rogers, Falcon took on the role, it's sidelined, and then this woman here, I think she's from is it like the Marvels movie or something like that? I'll put it to you like this. I don't care about any of these apart from this one here, Blade. That was the one I cared about the most. I don't give a damn that these are cancelled. I don't give a damn that they've cancelled these black actors. I'm not interested in trying to make it a black thing. Oh my God, Hollywood's not giving black people the equal amount of roles in Marvel. What's new? But the reason why Blade upsets me the most is because, Blade 1, it's a trilogy, yes, with Wesley Snipes. I hold that film dear to me because even though I was a kid when it came out, I was like 9 or 10 or something like that, right? And at first I wasn't allowed to watch it because it was an 18. And there's an interesting story behind it because I might not be accurate with this story, but I'm going to give you from what I can remember, what was said about it. So back when it came out, I'm sure it came out in 1997 or 8 or one of them. It was like a 90s film, from what I can remember. What happened was, before it was made, Marvel as a company was going into administration. So they were running out of finances. They were going to close down. What they decided to do to survive was sell off certain Marvel characters and their bad guys and antagonists to certain other movie companies. So what they did was they decided to sell the Spider-Man franchise to Sony and sell the X-Men franchise to Fox, I believe, yeah? So once they did that, they had money, and apparently they then created the movie Blade. Now, think about it. Your company was about to close down. You've sold off certain characters and their characters within their stories to certain other companies. You've now got a chance to make a movie because you've now got money. They decided to do Blade. Now, when they decided to do Blade at the time, clearly they didn't anticipate how well it was going to be received. You hope that your movie's going to do well, but you never knew that it was going to be such an iconic cult gem. But the key reason why it was so good is because when they made it, they didn't go with this candy approach of let's try and make Blade family friendly and make it to where it's suitable for all age ranges. Not like a PG-13 or anything like that, but they usually try and make, companies try and go with trying to make the whole family be able to watch it. They said at the time, no, Blade is a dark-skinned black man with a big long sword chopping up vampires. In a realistic setting, that is gory. It's gory. There's no way to dance around that or trying to do it where it's smudges of blood or whatever. No, he's hacking down vampires and there's blood everywhere. And they went with that approach and it was a huge success. So much to where that movie sparked, what we've seen going forward with Iron Man 1, 2, 3, Captain America 1, 2, 3, 4, Guardians of the Galaxy, all the movies that came, the Avengers, all the way up to Endgame. I'd say all the way to Endgame because everything else hasn't been that good ever since after Endgame. But that consistent run of, I would say, Iron Man 1, yeah? If we can go slight bit back further by putting the Incredible Hulk movie in there, but people look at it from Iron Man 1, really. Iron Man 1, and then 20 films all the way up until Endgame. Amazing. 1 or 2 weaknesses within the movies, but overall, a great run of movies. And that came from Blade being straight up gory, trying to go with the source material as much as they could. However, when it comes to that good run of films going forward, if you think about Iron Man 1, 2, the movies I mentioned all the way up to Endgame, if you think about it, superheroes in life-threatening, earth-shattering scenarios and events, there wasn't really much blood within these movies going forward, But again, family-friendly. They made it to where, yeah, we can't make it a PG or a U, but we made it accessible to where if that parent wants to let their 6-year-old watch it, on the sly, yeah, we've got age restrictions, we've got parental guidance, but if they want to let them watch it, let them watch it. And then what that allowed them to do is, because they knew kids were going to be watching this recent franchise of films, it allowed merchandise to be made, whether it's action figures, whether it's t-shirts, whether it's kids wearing party outfits of Spider-Man, Iron Man. You've gone into you've come across a toy store or a shop and you've seen on the side an Iron Man helmet. These are all made for kids, or the Hulk hand, the Hulk gloves. You can sell merchandise on these movies if you make them accessible to children, all right? So when it comes to these movies, Hollywood has always tried to make superheroes cater to kids rather than to adults, because when you cater it to adults, overwhelmingly, you can't really sell the merchandise of that film to kids because kids weren't allowed to watch it, because of the age restriction. We know kids are watching all sorts, but the age restriction doesn't allow kids to then go to the cinema to watch, and then you're going to lose out on those tickets, financially, and also you're going to lose out on merchandise. So most superhero films are never made just for adults, even though I would prefer it now because I'm an adult and I want to see realistic superhero movies, which would have blood and gore if you thought about it realistically. If superhero movies had the approach of being realistic, you would just see one big giant series like The Boys. Yeah, every movie would be just like, the series The Boys, just blood and guts everywhere. The Boys series is probably the most realistic. If superheroes existed, that's how superheroes would be in real life. Go watch it. That is probably the most realistic view of what superheroes would be if they were alive. They wouldn't just all be these stand-up citizens. They'd all be on drugs, perverts, part-time prostitutes, killing people by accident, and then getting the government to just scoot it under the rug with a press release because they've got some type of deal with the government. The Boys series is how I believe superheroes would really be. A bunch of narcissistic psychopaths who portray the image of trying to help people when really they're just there to help themselves. But I say all this to say, when it comes to now remaking Blade, the actor called Mashara something Ali, something like that, he took on the role, he got announced on stage, but he's had headache with it. 7 years straight, just had raw headache. And I think what they've been battling with, because we don't really know deep down what's going on. Maybe there's some insiders that have looked into this and I've just not paid attention. But my view on what I believe that they've been struggling with is, first of all, how do you make sure you don't make something that's worse than the original? Because the original, I'm not talking about Blade 2 and Blade 3, I'm talking about Blade 1. Blade 1 was the staple, right? Blade 1, if you're going to make a Blade movie going forward, the original Blade movie sets the standard. You have to either do better than that, and if you can't do better than that, you have to do exactly like that. There's no way you can make a Blade movie which isn't as gory as that. You can't make it tame. However, I would assume Marvel at the time would have liked to make it tame because Blade in the comics meets Spider-Man, So if you're going to make that I can never remember these people's names. Tom Hiddleston, is that his name? Tom Holland? If you're going to make him collab with Blade, like in the comics, you're going to have that Spider-Man around gory vampires getting chopped up. And in the Marvel universe, from what we've seen so far, the only really serious movie out of all of them, which was kind of like close to horror, was Doctor Strange in the Multiverse Madness, whatever it's called. That was like when Marvel pushed the boundaries a bit, people getting their necks broken, people's brains exploding inside the skulls. Like that was the closest it got. And even that would be considered somewhat tame. But with Blade, you can't fake it. There's no way you can do what you've been doing with all those other Marvel movies. Somehow buildings are dropping, people are getting beaten the crap out of, but there's next to no blood in it. There's just smirks on the face. You can't do that with Blade. You're going to have to go all the way. But at the same time, going all the way doesn't mix with the way Hollywood wants to do this. We've got to make it suitable for young youth because we want to sell Blade action figures. We want to sell Blade glasses and Blade jackets and all of that stuff. But it's like, if you want to sell merchandise, then you're going to have to make Blade soft. And anyhow you make him soft, people are going to scrutinize the hell out of it, saying, you had the blueprint there in the first movie. You had the blueprint. Why not just go and do that movie? But at the same time, if you go and do that movie, you then can't make him collab with all these other Marvel characters where you're playing it soft. So that's why I personally believe the Blade thing couldn't get done, because you've probably got a group of people saying, make it just as gory and just as wicked as the first movie. And then you've got the other side saying, no, we can't do that, because if we do that, we can't sell merchandise to kids, just like we couldn't back then. We weren't available to sell merchandise to kids because kids weren't able to watch the movie and then invest in the character, so then they'd want to be like Blade, which sounds weird to say, but these kids live through these characters. They have favorite characters. If you want to make money, you've got to make it palatable for children. If you're not bothered about making money from outside the movie, cool, make the movie how you want to make it. But I think that's what the argument is. Me personally, I would just love an out-and-out Blade like the first one. Just Blade, black-ass Blade, just walking around just chop up, chop up, chop up, you know? I mean, they had a sequence in Deadpool and Wolverine, where they brought Wesley Snipes back. And in that, there was chop up, all type of things. And you can tell like Marvel is prepared to do the gory thing somewhat, but that's more gory within comedy. Blade, you can't do the gory comedy thing because it won't be received well. You have to do gory, serious, badass black man with a semi-automatic pistol, or is it an automatic pistol in his hand and his blade, and he's just chopping up bare vampires and all of that stuff. There was speculation of people saying it won't be received very well, a black man chopping up bare white vampires. People always want to make it about race, but no, it's more to do with the seriousness of Blade. Will you do a Blade movie that's just as memorable and as amazing as the first one? And if you do it that way, will you accept the fact that you can't sell merchandise? These investors, as far as I'm concerned, these investors are going to want to go with the merchandise thing. They always do. It's more money, isn't it? And listen, this is something I'm talking about, which Hollywood always goes through when it comes to superhero movies. That's why superhero movies are overwhelmingly, you don't really see the gore and stuff like that. Now, they'll do gore in the animated movies, you know? You want to go watch Invincible? You want to go watch the DC Universe, the animated series? Go watch Justice League Apocalyptic War, you know, Suicide Squad, Hell to Pay. Go watch how gory and crazy that animated film is. That animated film was received so well that they went and done Suicide Squad again with Idris Elba in it. Gory and how it should have been. Because the first one with Will Smith was garbage. Again, tried to play it safe and it flopped. People are like, this isn't how the Suicide Squad is. Go look at them in the comics. They were crazy psychopaths who were basically teamed up because they were forced to. Otherwise, they'd die. Because this black woman that was running the team said, if you don't cooperate, we're going to kill you. So they just went and gone on these crazy missions. First movie with Will Smith was crap. Then I think the Hell to Pay came out after. Or people just said, look at the animated film. Why didn't you just make the animated film in real life? And then they said, okay, we'll make the animated film in real life with Idris Elba. And that's why we got a serious film. So it is possible, but with an out-and-out gory vampire horror film, because that's what the first Blade is, you just got to call it what it is, with action in this current Marvel universe where it's still trying to be adaptable for the youth. There's a person here, they've written, all you had to do was this, and it's showing a clip from, I believe this was Blade in one of the animated 3D series recently, like some zombie thing that Marvel did. Let's just look. It says Blade fighting Ghost in the new Marvel Zombies series. Let's have a look. Right, so as you can see, this is Blade. If you want to do a Blade movie, they're 100% correct. This is the type of stuff you have to show. This is Blade. And are you prepared to show Blade in this way? You can't just have it where there's no blood in it and he's just slicing up people. You've got to make it gritty. And this, unfortunately, you can't sell to children. You just can't. Can't sell it to children. You have to play it safe in the current world doing now if you want to sell action figures of this guy. You want to sell action figures of him, got to make it accessible to kids, and you can't make it accessible to kids showing stuff like this. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.